If I haven't had the chance to meet you, my name is Chris. I'm lead pastor here at Hoboken Grace. And we are in the midst of this conversation called Be Rich. Inside of our groups, we have all been moving through Financial Peace University together. While we've been doing that here on Sundays, we've been building the foundation for that, beginning with the incredible relationship that we get to have with God, that He invites us into, that He's made possible. And then last week, we began to talk about this problem that all of us have, that all of us are impacted by, that we live in this constant state of discontentment. That we live in this constant state of feeling like we need more, that if we could just have, then we would be. And we looked at how God steps into our life. And He says, that's not how my kids live. And Paul said to us, he said, you can know, not you might be able to, not there's some dream out there. He said, you can know, I have learned contentment. It's actually possible for us to be able to escape that constant sense of discontentment. That really, for many of us, we've lived in for so long that we just thought it's normal. This is just the way it is. There's no other way. But God said, no. There is another way. And so we decided to trust Him. To say, okay, God, we're gonna trust You as it pertains to what it is that You're teaching us in this area of our life, that for many of us, we've never really brought You into before, but we're going to trust You. And we're going to trust You. And I took you to this passage. I asked you last week, put this somewhere where you're going to see it every single day. 1 Timothy chapter 6, their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all that we need for our enjoyment. We're going to trust You, God, that You've given us all that we need for our enjoyment. I have everything that I need for me to know joy. I have everything that I need for me to know life. And so I hope you put that somewhere. And this is so critical because there's incredible power in memorizing Scripture and speaking that truth into the lie. Speaking that truth into that moment when you're beginning to experience that discontentment. And I've been practicing this for some time now because it's amazing to me how quickly I can be pulled into that discontentment. And sometimes it's that I think I need something in order to be happy, or sometimes it's just that life isn't going according to plan, and I find myself frustrated and discontent, and that joy is gone. And I've just been practicing, just pulling out of that moment for 1 minute. Because the interesting thing to me is not just how quickly we can get pulled into discontentment, but really if you just take a second and actually reflect on life for what it is, and if I can just take a minute and speak truth into that moment, it's amazing how it changes. And all of a sudden, I experience something that we talked about last week as well, that I'm grateful. Rather than being discontent, I'm grateful. And I hope you walked out of last week and you understood this, because oftentimes when we talk about gratitude, I'm not sure that we grasp what God's teaching us. And maybe this was you last week. Oftentimes when we talk about this, people will walk out of the conversation and say, I should be grateful. Or I need to be grateful for what it is that I have, as opposed to understanding that gratitude is the natural byproduct of seeing your life for what it is. If I take a second and just honestly reflect on, speak truth into that moment, and I look at what God has done and who God is and how He's working and how He's moving, the natural byproduct of that is gratitude. I don't have to, I don't need to, it's not that I should, it's the natural byproduct. And so what we've said is, we're not going to live that way anymore. We're not going to live in that constant discontentment anymore. He has given me all that I need for my enjoyment. And I'm going to live in gratitude. Not because I should or I need to, but because he has given me all that I need for my enjoyment. And this is so critical. I hope you understand this. If you don't understand that God has given you all that you need for your enjoyment, you will never enjoy what you have. Do you understand that? If we don't come to the point where we understand that God has given us all that we need for our enjoyment, for us to know joy, that I have what I need to know joy, you'll never enjoy what you have. It doesn't matter how much you have. You can get more and more and more and more and more and more and more. It will never be enough until we understand that God's given us all that we need for enjoyment. We'll never enjoy what we have. And so we've decided to live differently. And it begins with speaking that truth into those lies, speaking that truth into those moments. But then I want to build on that today and talk to you about a critical tool as it pertains to undermining the idols of discontentment. As it pertains to undermining your idols of discontentment. And whenever I start to talk about idols, people will say to me, well, Chris, I don't have any idols. And I understand you probably don't have a lot of figurines in your house that you worship. Although some of you do have an interesting number of Disney figurines. But I understand that that's probably not your reality. But make no mistake about it. You do have idols. And idols are whatever it is in your life that you believe will provide safety, security, will bring you life. And all of us have idols. The interesting thing is you can take all of our idols and you can put them into 3 categories. It's been this way from the beginning of the story. You can put them into 3 categories. 3 things that we worship. The first is the idea of possession. We talked about this last week. We love stuff. I love stuff. I want to have stuff. It's this idea of possession. If I could just possess, then I would have joy. If I could just possess, then I'd be secure. If I could just possess, then I'd have life. The second one is position. I want to be. If I had that position, this is the idea that you want to be envied. I want for you to want to be me. Position, the last one is the idea of pleasure. I want to feel. Interestingly enough, you can go back through time and different generations kind of lean towards one or the other, or pursue one more than the other. When I was thinking about it as it pertains to our culture, at first I thought it's clearly pleasure. And I do think that pleasure is huge inside of our culture in terms of what we worship. And if I can just feel, then I'm gonna be alive. If I could just feel, then I'm gonna be happy. And so we travel around the world and we go to all these places. But as I thought about it a little more, I began to question that. Because I realized the position one has changed a little bit. If you go back to the previous generation, the position one had to do with promotions, had to do with titles. And I got this promotion and I made it to this level and look at me. Don't you want to be me? I realized with our generation, it's different. It's the same idol, it's just different. It doesn't have to do with promotions. It has to do with likes. Nervous laughter. Has to do with followers. Look at my position. Don't you want to be me? I want to be envied. And social media, it's a phenomenal platform for these three idols. Don't you want to have what I have? Don't you want to be where I am? This is why you keep posting those photos of your feet in different places. It's so weird. No one wants to see your feet. Like, please stop. Like, it's just so you can show that you're in these, don't you wish you were here? It's not that you want them to be there with you. That's not actually why you're posting it. And hopefully you know we don't all want to see your feet. Don't you wish you were me? The best marketing uses all of these. The best marketing brings all of these into play. I decided to check this out as it pertains to apartments in Hoboken. And so I pulled up a couple of websites, just share a couple of them with you. The first one is from a building called Harbor 1500. It's right over here in Weehawken. It says this: a luxury collection of extraordinary residences steeped in the spirit of modern living, beauty informed by style, opportunity sustained by location. I don't even know what that means. A lifestyle infused. I mean, they brought out the thesaurus for that. I mean, just trying to figure out a lifestyle infused with inspiration. And then listen to this last line: we invite you to live as you were meant to live. Life. You want life? Here's where you find it. This next one was interesting. It's for the Vine. Lease the luxury, own the lifestyle. Located on Monroe Street. What? I live on Monroe Street. I know Monroe Street. I don't know. Only steps from the light rail. Is that a good thing? The Vine boasts an unparalleled convenience for commuters while maintaining a sense of exclusivity. They're going to want to be you. Cadillac does this so well. Cadillac, I have never seen a Cadillac commercial that didn't capture all three of these things. Look what you can have, what you can possess. The entire commercial is trying to get you to imagine what it's going to feel like to be in that car and have everyone look at you. Every Cadillac commercial has all three. It's amazing. I think it's a checklist. Consistently. Look what you can have. Look who you will be. Imagine how it will feel. And these idols come to us and they promise us life, joy. And so we bring to them our offerings. And for a while, or for a moment, there is a thrill. And you buy that, and you have it. It's amazing. But it's fleeting. You were really excited about that car. So your neighbor came over last week. Is that a classic Land Rover? I haven't seen one of those in a while. What is that? 2015? Somebody like, I'd never own a car that old. It's fleeting. That spa was amazing until you picked your kids up from school. And then it was gone. They come to us and they promise us life. They promise us joy. But it's fleeting. And it leaves us wanting. And there's no end. We find ourselves in that constant state of discontentment as we continue to serve these idols. So what do we do? You know, it's interesting. God always talks about idols the same way. When he speaks to us about how to address idols, he never speaks to us about priority. He never says, well, you just need to make sure they're in the right order. When he speaks to us about idols, he doesn't speak to us about control. Just make sure that you keep them under control. Nope. He speaks to us about idols the same way every time. You hear him talking to the nation of Israel about this in Exodus 34 when they're about to move into the promised land. He says, be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or there will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. He says, here's what you do with idols. You rip them out. And make no mistake about it, this will be a battle. That's why Paul says, when he learns contentment, he says, I can do anything through Christ. Why? Because if I can do this, it's going to be a battle. And these idols are significant. You find them through the whole story. As a matter of fact, when you go back to the garden, it started with the temptation of three things. Take the fruit. You can have it. Taste it. You can feel it. And you will be like God. Look who you'll become. The temptation of Jesus comes down to these three things. He's tempted in three ways. These three ways. Turn this stone into bread. Taste. You don't have to be hungry anymore. If you bow to me, all of this will be yours. You can possess all of it. Jump off the top of this temple. The angels will catch you, and everyone will know who you are. The idols have been the same from the beginning of the story. And you find them over and over and over again, promising life and leaving us wanting. It will be a battle. But God says, no, you can know contentment. But if that's going to happen, we have to rip them out. And it starts with, listen to me. It starts with us deciding we're done. They've been promising us life. We've been bringing our offerings, and they have left us wanting, chasing, constantly needing more. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of chasing? Are you finally tired of chasing? Are you fed up with the lie that's robbing you of joy? Or are you going to continue to give it a place in your life? Are you fed up with constantly living in discontentment? You're not going to be willing to rip out the idol until you hate it. And you need to hate it. We need to hate what it has done to us. We need to hate how it has robbed us. No more, we need to just have it in the right priority. No more, we just need to get under control. No, we need to hate what it has done to us. And to decide, it's time to rip it out. It's time to rip it out. It's time for it to go. So how do you do that? I remember I had a mentor who taught me this years ago. He said, it's not that difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's a battle, and it's a lifelong battle, ripping out idols, because they're like bamboo. I don't know if you've ever tried to get rid of bamboo from a property. It's impossible. You think you got rid of it, it pops up over there. It's awful. That's the way idols are. As soon as you think you got rid of them, they end up popping up over there. It's going to be a lifelong thing, and it's a battle, but it's worth it. And he says, as you go into it, it is a battle, but it's not that hard. Because here's what you do. In order to rip out an idol, you have to sabotage it. You have to undermine it. And he was teaching me this because I was working through something. At the time in my life, I struggled with thinking that I knew everything. Somebody's like, Chris, you haven't really gotten over that. And I would constantly correct people. And I had a mentor, he came to me and he said, Chris, if you keep doing this, you're not going to have any friends. And I said, people love it. I help them know what's true. He said, they don't actually love it. And we started to work through it. And the interesting thing is that it had to do with the idol of position. I wanted people to know I was smarter than them. Look at me. Look what I know. It's one of the reasons why I love random facts. I love random facts. There's nothing I can memorize faster than random facts. I know so many of them. Has everything to do with the idol of position. I want to show you how much I know. He said, we're going to have to undermine this. Here's how you kill an idol. You sabotage it. You undermine it. So this is what you're going to do. The next time you're in a conversation and someone says something that isn't correct, you're going to keep it to yourself. I said, I don't think that's biblical. Speak the truth in love. He said, you're going to keep it to yourself. I said, okay. And I can remember exactly where I was. I was in high school at the time. I can remember this kid's living room. It's funny how these little stories in your life, they have such an impact. You can actually still remember them. And we're sitting in his living room, and my friend shares something. I think it was a sports fact. It wasn't anything that mattered at all, but my friend shares something, and it was so obviously wrong. I thought, well, I can stay quiet. The other people in the room will correct him. They did not. And I'm sitting there, and I just closed my eyes, and I started to meditate. And it was so hard because they went on to have a 15-minute conversation based on something that wasn't true. And the whole time I'm thinking, I don't think this is loving. I think you could have removed one of my fingernails and it would have been less painful for me. You know you found an idol when it hurts. I started to practice that. You have to undermine it, sabotage it. When we first started Hoboken Grace, my brother-in-law and I, we had the same idol, that idol of position, and we're overly serious. We're not overly serious because we're actually overly serious people. We just want people to take us seriously. That's why most of us in the room who are too serious, we're not too serious because we enjoy being serious. We just want people to take us seriously. And so we present something. And we were starting the church and we were talking about this in our own lives. We said, okay, we got to figure out how to undermine this. And so we were taking this picture and I decided to make a fool of myself to try to undermine it. That photo followed me for 10 years. Successfully undermining that idol. You have to figure out how to undermine it. I talk about this with people who worship relationships. And I tell them, I want you to say no to the next 3 people who ask you out, and it gives them heart palpitations. But what if they're the one? There's the idol, right there. If I could just have, if I could just be, if I could just feel, then I'd be happy. It's destroying us. It's destroying us. And we've got to decide enough is enough. And we're not going to do it anymore. And I'm not going to buy into the lie anymore. And I'm going to undermine it. This is actually, listen to me, listen. This is why God calls us to give. Why? To undermine the idol. The idol that I can have, that I can be, that I can... Look, he says, I want for you to undermine your idol. How? I want for you to bring me your offerings instead of them. You get to choose which one you bring your offerings to. I want you to bring it to me. Why? Because it will undermine those idols in your life. It has everything to do with your heart. And there are a lot of different reasons why God calls us to give, to mobilize the mission, to emulate his generosity. We talk about that all the time here. But that's not the primary reason. The primary reason is because of what he wants to do in your heart. And you say, well, I can't give. If I give, I won't have. If I give, I won't be. If I give, I won't be able to do. Yeah. It's going to force you to ask a question. Do I have all that I need for my enjoyment? People who are generous don't have and they aren't able to do. But do you know what they are? They're content and grateful. And God says, I want to do something in your heart. I want to rip those idols out. And so here's what I want for you to do. I want you to give. The question is, do we hate what they're doing to us? Are we willing to come to the place where we say, no more? Then are we willing to trust him? Beginning with the practice of giving. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Some of you need to get rid of your car. Some of you need to get off of social media. It was funny, after the second service, I saw someone over here on Instagram. I think they were just deleting feet photos. Okay, God, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give. I'm going to bring to you my offerings. And then I'm going to begin to work to rip these things out. Because I am not going to live in a constant state of discontentment. He stepped into our lives and he's told us, this isn't how my kids live. Don't lie to yourself and tell yourself that you have to stay there. It's not true. It's not true. Will you trust him? Will you trust him? You can know life. You can know what it is to enjoy what you have because you know that you have been given all that you need for your enjoyment. But you have to trust him to lead you there. Will you pray with me? Father, as we look at this today, I pray that you truly would raise up within us an anger, a righteous anger about what these idols have done in our lives. That we would be overwhelmed by how they have stolen from us. And Father, the enemy for so long has told us that you wanted something from us instead of for us. The enemy has told us over and over and over again that you're trying to steal from us, when in fact, it's not you who are the thief. In fact, these idols, over and over and over again, have stolen from us joy, peace, life. Father, I pray that we would decide today, enough is enough. I pray that we would speak that truth into our life over and over and over again, that no, I have been given all that I need for my enjoyment. I pray that we would trust you to bring to you our offerings instead of bringing it to these idols. And Father, I pray that we would begin to engage you in this conversation of asking, what do I need to do? Show me how to undermine that idol in my life. To rip it out of my heart. So that my heart can be yours and yours alone. In Jesus' name.